Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we're doing another installment of the weekly meta breakdown where we look at the top decks on the MTG Arena ladder up to Mythic rank. This particular video will be for the timeless best of one format. We're slowly getting through everything with the new Karlov Manor set that came out. One thing with these more eternal formats, does take a little bit longer for the data to aggregate, particularly in the best of three format. So we might be delayed a little bit longer in terms of getting that information out. The most notable card that came out of Karlov was not from Karlov itself, but from the special guest slot in terms of impacting timeless, and that is Show and Tell. Right now, I will preface, there's no one exact deck list that is showing up, but the overarching theme of Show and Tell is being quite prevalent. I actually think it is probably the best deck in the format. It's incredibly consistent. It can win on turn 2, and it's very hard to interact with outside of a well-timed discard, particularly in best of one. So they can win on the spot, they can win at instant speed. There's a lot of different ways they can kind of approach it. So the one thing is with Untapped, it doesn't have just based this. I'm recording this, there's like 6 days worth of data. It needs a minimum cap of games to capture, because there's not like a stock list. We're getting variations of it. Not show up, but I do have a list that I'll reference at the end of the video and explain how the combo works. So stay tuned for that. I'll paste all the deck lists, get all the timestamps. Otherwise, we're getting all the other data from Untapped GG, what you see on the screen. Companion tool that aggregates your win rate with other users. Link for Untapped is in the video description if you want to get set up. Like I said, I'll paste all these deck lists and we'll go from there. We're going to start off as always with the popularity of decks, and then we'll look at the win rates themselves to kind of give you an idea of what things are. Again, first week, you usually don't see huge changes in terms of the overall meta, and especially in these more eternal formats. It's not like standard where the card population is a lot smaller. The set in general I'm finding it a little bit weaker. And as much as I love the Rhinos, I started off really well with Crashing Footfalls and have kind of fallen off since then. With Show and Tell, the Rhinos is a little bit too fair of a deck compared to, turn 2, they just win the game. You're looking like turn 3, 4 to get a good board position, but attacking and blocking in terms of a heavy combo meta is a little tough right now. So, popularity of the day, Rakdos Burn continues to be the most popular, 10%. Mono Green Titan, we finally got some Titan data up on the channel, 9%. Rakdos Breach, 8.4. The deck that's kind of hurting my heart that it's showing up, it's sullied the historic meta. The 4-color Geist Leyline deck has been showing up a lot more in the format itself. This is the most coin flippy deck. Win or lose, nobody has fun. It's just like the most. I'm actually curious like where it's at in historic. Only 9%. This Leyline deck's been upwards of like 30% before. But in any case, we'll go back to Timeless. We have Mono Black Control, we have Rakdos Midrange, Jund Midrange, and then Dimir Dredge. Looking at like recent stats, like the Burn deck has kind of fallen down. It's been pretty high thus far. Similarly, we've seen Dredge kind of pick up and then dramatically drop in terms of popularity. We're seeing increases in the Green Titan deck, as well as Rakdos Breach has been kind of holding steady. And this like Geist deck in the last week has kind of been popping up more. The Jund deck's been doing terrible. Similarly, like Rakdos Midrange has actually picked up a bit, but the Jund Midrange deck, it's improved its stance in the last day to 48%, and it's been as low as like low 40s. The Jund deck's much more of a best of 3 deck than a best of 1 deck. So looking at it, we got best of 1, 6th through the 12th, like 6 days of data, 22,000 games played. And like I said, it hurts my heart. Leyline Geist, like, could we all just make a pack and just not play this deck? Because it's just not fun either way. It's a race. Who gets to kind of cast the cards first? Basically, you mulligan aggressively until you have a Leyline in hand as 1 land and Fragment Reality. You target your own Leyline. You always get Geist. Start attacking in. You put just like auras on it to give it evasion or card draw. Kind of win from there. You can hold full control, and then as your angel deals damage, you can phase it out, and then you get your angel for the following turn as well. One thing you can try out is you can play the new Leyline. It makes all your cards all multicolor. It also fixes your mana that you don't have to pay the life for like mana confluence or add a card waste. Given that there's so much burn, it could actually be meaningful in that respect. Like Leyline of Lightning doesn't really do much. Some games just keeping like Sanctity or Void can also just win you the game against like Burn or Discard or Dredge type decks. So 64% there. But yeah, let's all make a pact. Everybody together now. We will not play Leyline. So then moving on, we have Sultai Midrange. So there's a couple different versions of Sultai. This version is kind of the fair version. There's a Sultai Natural Order deck that Arnie Hirschenbach was running. Played a bit of that too, but it's a little bit slower than I find like where the format's at right now. You could just kind of jam it in here, which isn't too bad, but I think you'd have to switch up things a little. It's basically just using Natural Order for Atraxa or Coma. You basically just slot in 6 cards. The one thing though is in that version they were running the full set of Delighted Halflings to turn 3 enable the Natural Order. You have Death Rites, Brainstorms, you have 6 pieces of discard which help in the combo matchup, some Fatal Pushes as removal, like real boomer stuff with Tarmogoyf, Zoomer stuff with Orcish Bowmasters, Drown in the Lock. This is one of the art on this card is fantastic, but the special guests are Mythic in the new set. And just a disclaimer, in case you weren't aware, you could only open these cards in draft. So show and tell, stuff like that. They are not in the packs you get on Arena. They're not like the special guest inserts like we had for Wilds of Eldraine. Or the masterpiece kind of things. I opened probably like 100 packs, didn't open any, and it turns out you can only get it in draft. So keep that in mind if you're just cracking packs to try to get these. And they're all Mythic. So even though I want to update my Drown in the Lock art, I'm not spending Mythic wildcards to do so, given that in this economy, I can't even afford my show and tells. Ashiok helps against the field matchup, graveyard deck, stuff like that, which is nice. Oko's in here, and then some Uros. I think Uro's actually kind of bad. It's really slow against Burn. It doesn't really do huge amounts. Plays you into Bowmaster and like every other deck's a Deathrite deck. So I think even just kind of shifting what you want, the Natural Order package is probably better, all things considered, mixed into there. We then go to Rakdos Breach, 62%. So it's been pretty stock since then. The only kind of deviation you'll sometimes see is some are on the full Ragavan package, some are playing Deathrite Shaman in the main. Largely more and more, Ragavan seems not the best card in the format, just with Bowmaster running around. Burn, I've like cut it down to 2. It's just more of like an ancillary threat, but Dragon Rage Chandler really enables this deck. You're basically fair game trying to beat down, but you can set up where Underworld Breach, you can keep recasting Dark Rituals, Diabolic Intent to like sack your Stitcher that fuels your Dragon Rage, also kind of fuel your graveyard to eventually get Tendrils of Agony to win through that way there. Luris Companion in this particular list. Then we go to Rakdos Burn, 59%. This version here is the 16-line version. I've been playing this probably the most in the last little bit. It can beat Show and Tell. You can get an aggressive enough start, as well as like Eidolon potentially locking them out. You can also, it possesses enough burn that I've won a couple games where my opponent just like Show and Tells Atraxa and can't go the full combo. And I attack in all and then kill my own creature that Atraxa is blocking to nullify the life gain. So it's one of the ways that I've kind of played around with the deck to see and kind of managed it that way there. I think I got rid of the Sulphurous Springs. I'll paste my deck list too just to see like where it differs, but the one I've been ranking up most this month's been a little rough just in terms of ranking, but Burn's been working well for me recently. We then go to Mono Green Titan, so we have 59% win rate, and there's a couple versions of this deck as well. The new Archdruid Charm, Alt MTG posted a version, got top 10 Mythic and best of 3 with it. The charm's really nice because it can blow up artifacts or enchantment or exile them. So it hits a One Ring, hits Blood Moon, hits Omniscience, so all reasonable threats. This version here, you have the Karn package, which in best of 1 is super reasonable. I do like the inclusion of Titan of Industry, in part because against an Omniscience draw, if you do have Titan in hand, you can blow up their Omniscience with it coming into play. Most of the Archdruid ones, they've just trimmed down on Splunkings and cut the Rejuvenators in lieu of that. But basically, Dork early, turn 3, ideally Natural Order into Primeval Titan. You also have Sunken Citadel. With the Citadel and Castle Garenbrig, it reduces the activation ability, so you can cheat out the Titan even earlier. Another great art card, Field of the Dead, got reprinted, but it's Mythic here, so hurts because that's a cool art for it. The Karn board, you got Graveyard Hate, Artifact Enchantment Hate, Liquid Metal Coating, you can blow up their lands or activated abilities, Stone Brain for combo. Thorn of the Amethyst is actually pretty cool because it can screw up the Omniscience draws, so kind of attack a Thalia in this format that doesn't get hit by Bowmaster. Wormcoil for life gain, Cityscape Leveler as generic blow-up stuff. Now notably, this is a cast trigger, not an enter the battlefield. Depending on where the format ends, you may actually want Meteor Golem. Meteor Golem individually is a worse card, but it's an enter the battlefield as opposed to a cast trigger. Normally this cast trigger is better because if they counter it, you still get the ability, but specifically with Show and Tell, you want to blow up the Omniscience. So that's the field deck. Grixis Shadow gets misclassified, but this is Grixis Tainted Pact with Luris Companion. So this is another combo deck at 58% win rate. And this particular deck is looking to use every card in this deck is a single, including the mana base, outside of Tainted Pact, as well as Thassa's Oracle. So ideally what you do is you Tainted Pact for Thassa's Oracle, and then if you get your other Tainted Pact, or what you can do is just cast Thassa's Oracle with the trigger on the stack, you cast Tainted Pact, you exile your entire library. Even if they kill Thassa's Oracle, it's 0 or less, so you'd still win the game like that. The rest of the deck's just removal, hand hate, card draw, just like think of it as a hard Grixis control deck that has a surprise combo finish to it. If you play anything like my opponents, despite it being a singleton, you will start with a Thoughtseize into a like Bowmaster on turn 2, or like Counterspell into turn 3 interaction, turn 4 combo. Every single time I play against this deck, it seems. Then go to Sultai Storm. So this is another combo deck. The format is, especially in Best of 1, heavy combo focused at this point. This is a channel version of the deck. Another deck where they always have the channel on turn 1, but this one's an artifact based one, and you're leveraging with Aetherflux Reservoir as the win condition. You can beseech the mirror to get like either your channels to then cast a bunch of stuff, but really what you're trying to do with this deck is draw a bunch of cards with the One Ring. You have Planar Bridge in here that lets you put cards into play. You can play Omniscience, Chromatic Aura, which can draw you cards. Bunch of tutors between Wishclaw, Demonic Tutor, and the Beseech package. Karn also gets you access to combo pieces. So really what you're trying to do is assemble Aetherflux Reservoir, the Paradox Engine, and then Ancestral Statue, and then that can basically let you repeatedly cast the Ancestral Statue, each time gaining life with Aetherflux Reservoir. Some of the versions of the deck will play mana accelerants, like Mind Stones, stuff like that, that lets you keep casting. The statue basically bounces itself back to hand, and then lets you recast it over and over again. I think the Ori adds mana, so it can kind of work with that right there. If you have Channel, you can also just keep paying life to cast the statue. You eventually net life because the Aetherflux Reservoir on each subsequent casting also works in that manner. Go to Dimir Dredge then, 57%. So this version here, just a bunch of self-mill. This is the Brainstorm version to put cards back on top of your library. It's very interesting with this particular version is they've trimmed down the number of Otherworldly Gaze, which I think this card is actually one of the best cards in the deck at just kind of filling your graveyard. Milling it over provides virtual card advantage as well. I'd much rather play 4 of these than the 2 Merfolk Secret Keepers, but this is a choice that was made for this. Basically, once you mill over your cards, you can free cast like Narcomoebas that come into play. Your Creeping Chills get to cast, and then you get to get Silver Smoke back. Anything coming back from the graveyard triggers Price Amalgam, and then lands trigger the Bloodghast coming back as well. And then lastly, Sultai Show and Tell. So this is a version of the deck from Ali Eldrazi. They went 21-8 with it. This is best of 3, but you just have to adjust your sideboard to have the 7 slots, because this does leverage your sideboard for the combo. So how it works, you got Show and Tell. So the turn 2 win in this particular deck is turn 1, you Utopia Sprawl onto your forest. You also have Leyline of Sanctity. If you're a real baller, you get it out on turn 0, protects you from hand hate, stuff like that. Utopia Sprawl on turn 1, then you cast Show and Tell, you put into play Omniscience, and then either you have in hand the Atraxa that then lets you get a bunch of cards, but what you do is the combo itself is once you have Omniscience out, you cast Mastermind's Acquisition, you go into your sideboard, you get Mastermind's Acquisition, you then go into your sideboard again, you get Scholar the Lost Ages, your Scholar comes into play, it gets back your 2 Mastermind's Acquisitions into hand, you then go with 1 to get Approach the Second Sun, you cast Approach the Second Sun, and then with the second copy of Mastermind's Acquisition, you search your library for Approach the Second Sun, and you cast it for the second time, and you win the game. In terms of your sideboard, it's basically, I would keep the Mastermind's Acquisition, the Approach the Second Sun, Scholar of Ages, the Ugin, an Assassin's Trophy, Veil of Summer, and potentially like Pick Your Poison or Spell Pierce. Pick Your Poison, they named 2 cards Pick Your Poison, the test case one, and it's the new 1 mana sack an artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. So I would kind of bring those in, like the anti kind of hate pieces, and then like your combo pieces. The rest of the deck is just like Brainstorms, Impulse Effects, Dig Through Time, Sleight of Hand, Assemble the Team, just finding your combo pieces. Born of the Upon the Wind, you can cast this at instant speed. So if they even have interaction, you can cast your sorcery. You can cast spells this turn as though they have flash. So with your opponent's effect on the stack. So say you cast Omniscience, they cast Titan of Industry. They try to blow up your enchantment. Well, what you can do is you cast this in response and then just combo it at instant speed as well. So it's a really obscene combo. It's very consistent in the sense hand hate works really well. Roiling Vortex is something that theoretically works, but I tried it out and honestly I find that in the instance that you have it against this and they have the Omniscience draw, yeah, it can stop them. They can also just beat you down with an Atraxa. That's something that they very well can do. That just kind of takes you out of it. It's terrible. Like I was playing it in Burn and then I kept running into like non-combo decks and then you end up just losing because you're trying to play Creature Mirrors and you've drawn a 2-drop that hurts you because you're behind on board. And you kind of remove some of your interaction. Vortex is definitely a best of 3 card, I think, that you can bring in certain cases to kind of combat that. The Archdruid's Charm is another one. Crosson's Grip is another one that can be brought in, but these are starting, like the charm is flexible enough that you can play it in best of 1. Things like Crosson Grip is a lot more narrow. So things like Inquisition of Kozilek, Thoughtseize, the hand hate components get a lot better in the format, I think, at this point, when you can target and stuff like that. So that's it for the week. Let me know what you think, what you've been thinking of the format, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.